Okay, you might not spend a lot of time thinking about, rocks and minerals day to day, but get this. There's this seemingly sort of behind-the-scenes commodity, barite, and it's actually a massive global market, and it's really growing. We're diving into it today. By this year, 2025, the global market is pegged at what? USD 2.14 billion. Hefty number.
It really is remarkable when you step back and consider what it actually is. Barite, it's a naturally occurring mineral, barium sulfate, chemically speaking. And it's got a couple of key characteristics that make it, well, surprisingly valuable. First, it's incredibly dense. It has a high specific gravity, which just means it's much heavier than you'd expect for its size, especially for a non-metallic mineral. Think of it like comparing maybe a handful of feathers to a handful of sand. Even if they look like the same amount, the sand weighs a whole lot more. Barite is the sand here.
Okay.
And second, it's chemically inert. Basically, it doesn't react easily with other stuff. Visually, it's usually white or maybe colorless. But sometimes impurities can give it different colors, like blue, yellow, gray, even brown sometimes.
Interesting. Okay, so for this deep dive, we've got this recent market analysis on barite right here in front of us. Our mission really is to dig into the key insights, figure out why this mineral, which sounds pretty unassuming, commands such a big market and, where it's headed. This report uses data right up to March 2025, so it's super fresh, and it forecasts out all the way to 2033.
Exactly. So let's get down to it. What is barite, and why should you, our listener, actually care? We've touched on the chemistry, barium sulfate, BarySO4, and those two main things, high density and being chemically inert, that's really where the story starts for its uses.
High-density chemical inertness. Okay, let's unpack that a bit more. Those sound a bit like textbook terms, maybe? Where do they actually matter in the real world? What's the, practical impact?
Well, the single biggest use, taking up a huge chunk of the global supply, is in the oil and gas industry. It's absolutely essential. They use it as a weighting agent in drilling fluids. You might hear it called drilling mud.
Drilling mud, right?
Yeah. When you're drilling deep down, you hit these immense pressures from rock formations. So this dense barite gets mixed into the fluid. It helps counteract that pressure, stops blowouts, and it keeps the borehole stable while the drill bit goes deeper and deeper. And with the world still needing so much oil and gas, well, that basic need creates massive demand for barite.
Right. Energy needs, always a big driver. But surely a multi-billion-dollar market isn't just riding on one application, is it? I'm guessing there are some more maybe surprising uses out there. Hit us with those aha moments.
Oh, absolutely. Oil and gas is the big one, no doubt. But one of the fastest growing areas, that's medical and pharmaceuticals.
Really? Medical?
Yep. Remember we say it's radiopaque. That means it blocks X-rays. So barium sulfate is incredibly useful as a contrast agent for medical imaging.
Oh, fair.
Think about barium meals, barium enemas. Patients drink or receive this solution with barium sulfate. It coats the digestive tract, and that lets doctors get much clearer pictures on X-rays and CT scans. Helps diagnose all sorts of gut issues.
Yes.
And beyond that, there's some really exciting research looking at using barium sulfate nanoparticles for targeted drug delivery, maybe. Getting meds exactly where they need to go, and even in radiation shielding for medical equipment, protecting staff and patients.
Wow, that's quite a jump. From like gritty oil drilling to precise medical diagnostics. What else? What else has this mineral got up its sleeve?
Well, think about everyday stuff around you. Rubber and plastics industries. Bari is often added there as a filler. It enhances a whole load of properties.
Yep, what?
It can improve stiffness, overall strength, makes materials more resistant to abrasion, chemicals, boosts weather resistance. It can even help dampen noise. Think about pipes or maybe components in your car.
Noise dampening. In cars.
Yeah, and interestingly, its use is growing in specialized electronic components too. And again, for radiation shielding, but within certain plastics. You might not realize it. But that quieter ride in some newer cars could partly be thanks to this humble mineral.
Huh, so it's not just adding weight, it's actually engineering better materials. That's fascinating. What about things we see more directly, like paint on our walls or cars?
Exactly, the paints and coatings industry. Another big user of barite, it acts as a really good pigment extender, gives high brightness, low oil absorption, which means it helps create a smooth, even finish. You find it in everything from house paint to car coatings.
Okay.
It even finds its way into adhesives and sealants, though admittedly in smaller amounts compared to the others.
Right.
And there are other sort of niche uses too, but those are the main drivers of demand.
Okay. So we've got a pretty solid picture now of what barite is, its different jobs. Let's shift gears to the global market. That USD 2.14 billion for 2025 is impressive, and you said it's expected to keep climbing.
Absolutely. The market report projects quite significant growth. It's estimated to reach USD 3.3092 billion by 2033. That works out to a compound annual growth rate, or CAGR, of 5.60% between 2025 and 2033.
CAGR. Right, the average growth each year.
Pretty much, yeah. It assumes the growth builds on itself year after year. It gives you a smoothed out picture of the growth trend.
And how's that huge market spread out right now? Who are the big buyers globally? And where's that 5.6% growth likely to be strongest?
Okay, so looking at 2025, right now, North America holds the biggest piece of the pie. It accounts for over 37% of the global market. That's about USD 791.80 million.
Wow, over a third.
Yeah, and the U.S. is the dominant player there, largely driven by all that shale and tight oil production they have. The overall North American market is expected to grow steadily, around 4.4% CAGR.
And the breakdown within North America.
So the U.S. market is estimated at USD 624.73 million. Then you've got Canada at USD 95.02 million, and Mexico around USD 72.05 million.
Okay, so North America is the current leader. What about across the Atlantic, Europe?
Europe's also very significant. It commands over 29% of the global market. That translates to about USD 620.60 million in 2025. And its growth rate is pretty similar to North America's, projected at 4.4% CAGR too. There are some interesting things happening within Europe, though. Like the UK market, valued around USD 104.26 million. It's seeing more demand for barite and radiation shielding, probably linked to healthcare investments.
Makes sense.
Germany, which is a bigger market at USD 122.88 million, has really strong use in industry and building materials. Then you've got Russia at USD 96.19 million, France around 57 million, Italy just over 53 million, plus a bunch of other smaller but still relevant markets across the rest of Europe: Spain, Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland. They all add up.
Right, so North America and Europe are definitely the current powerhouses. But you mentioned earlier, didn't you, that the fastest growth is happening somewhere else?
That's right. You're looking at the Asia-Pacific region, APAC. Currently, it holds about 24% of the global market. That's around USD 513.60 million for 2025. But the really noteworthy thing is its projected growth rate. APAC is forecast to have the highest TGR by far at 8.4%.
8.4%, that's quite a clip higher than the others.
It really is. China's a major player, obviously, with a market around USD 215 million. But India really stands out. Its individual country CAGR is pegged at a huge 10.3%.
Wow, over 10% in India. Why so high there?
It seems to be fueled by a couple of things: big infrastructure investments, plus a government push for domestic energy production. That means more drilling, and also expansion in renewable energy infrastructure, which, maybe surprisingly, can use barite in some specialized construction and manufacturing roles.
Interesting connection to renewables, too.
Yeah, and Japan, South Korea, Australia, Southeast Asian nations, they all contribute significantly to that booming APAC market as well.
So APAC, especially India, definitely the region to watch for future expansion. What about the other regions? South America, Middle East, Africa, are they in the picture?
They are, though, with smaller shares currently. South America holds just over 3.8% share. That's about USD 81.32 million, with a pretty decent CAGR of 5.9%. Brazil's a key player there with its big oil and gas sector, especially offshore. That's nearly USD 35 million of the South American total. Argentina is also growing in energy and construction.
Okay, and the Middle East?
The Middle East accounts for around 4.00%, estimated at USD 45.60 million, with a strong CAGR of 6.1%. You've got Qatar making big investments in drilling infrastructure. Saudi Arabia's massive oil production is obviously a factor. Turkey's also interesting because of its infrastructure growth. UAE is significant too.
Right, oil and infrastructure driving things there.
Africa. Africa has the smallest share, around 2.2%. That's about USD 47.08 million, with a 5.3% CAGR. Nigeria's oil and gas needs are a factor. South Africa is involved in energy and some offshore drilling. Those are the main spots, plus the rest of Africa combined.
It really paints a picture, doesn't it? How tied the demand for something like barite is to global energy, global construction infrastructure.
Yeah.
So let's drill down on why it's growing. What are the key factors really pushing this market forward? And are there any, potential speed bumps?
Yeah, the market drivers are pretty clear, actually. First and foremost is that increasing global demand from oil and gas, especially the growing use of barite in drilling mud. That's fundamental. Plus, just more oil exploration and production activities happening worldwide, that naturally means more barite consumption. And like we discussed, that unique combo high density and chemical inertness It's leading to its use in more advanced, diverse applications too. So the demand base is broadening.
Okay, that all makes sense. More energy, more drilling, wider uses. But you mentioned potential challenges. What are the restraints?
Yes, definitely some market restraints to keep in mind. One is cost. Rising operational costs in mining, maybe,
How?
and a potentially limited supplies of easily accessible, high-grade barite in some places. That could push prices up, which in turn might slow down market growth a bit.
Price pressure, okay. Anything else?
Competition. Barite faces increasing competition from synthetic alternatives. Things like fly ash, GGBFS, that's granulated blast furnace slag,
Right.
and precipitated calcium carbonate, especially in industrial uses like cement manufacturing. Apparently, these synthetics accounted for something like 10% of the industrial barite demand just last year in 2023.
10%? That's not insignificant.
No, it's not. And of course, if barite prices themselves get too high, that could hinder its adoption, especially in applications where cost is really critical.
So it's this constant balance, isn't it, between barite's essential properties and things like cost, availability, and these substitutes popping up. What about the future? Any notable market trends shaping where this is all headed?
Absolutely. We're seeing a clear trend towards more barite use in the healthcare sector,
Yeah.
particularly in diagnostic imaging, like we talked about, and also in radiation shielding tech.
Okay.
And as we touched on earlier, the plastics industry is using it more and more to enhance material performance in a wider range of products. There was a note about projected increases in chemical demand within plastics, highlighted by companies like BASF. That points towards this trend continuing.
Right. Seems like we're getting a really comprehensive view of this market now.
Yeah.
So who are the actual players, the companies involved in the global barite game? Is it dominated by a few giants or is it more spread out?
The report suggests it's a highly competitive scene. You've got a mix of big multinational corporations and smaller, more regional specialists.
Okay.
Some of the key names mentioned, and this isn't like a ranking or a full list, just examples include Anglo-Pacific Minerals, Ashapura Group, Simbar Performance Minerals, Demeter O&G Supplies, Excalibur Minerals, Apollo Gold and Silver Core, International Earth Products, P&S Barite Mining, PVS Chemicals, SLB, formerly Schlumberger, Big in Oil Services,
Ah, right.
and the Andhra Pradesh Mineral Development Corporation in India. So you see a real mix there. Global players like SLB, specialized mineral suppliers like Simbar, and regional powerhouses like Ashapura. It suggests a kind of tiered competitive structure.
Sounds like a pretty dynamic field then. Has there been much recent activity? Any deals or news that give us a glimpse of what's happening right now?
Yeah, there have been several interesting things noted. Back in March 2021, Simbar bought Tour Minerals North American barite assets. That maybe suggests some consolidation happening.
Okay.
Then in May 2022, that Indian company, APMDC, signed a big agreement and a MOU to supply barite, another name for barite, to companies in the U.S., highlights the global trade aspect.
Right.
Pan American Minerals sold its Waterloo Silver Barite project to Apollo Gold and Silver in July 2021. Shows activity even in related mineral projects.
Hmm.
More recently, January 2023, there was a new gas field discovered in Egypt that could potentially boost drilling needs and therefore barite demand in that region.
Yeah.
And just this past March, 2025, the Jaén region in Spain was highlighting its potential for barite mining. So exploration for new resources is ongoing too.
Okay, so definitely an active market. Mergers, supply deals, new discoveries, exploration. It's all happening. Let's dig just a bit deeper into how the market breaks down. The report segments it by grade, application, and end user, right? Tell us about the grades first.
That's correct. So looking at the by-grade outlook, barite with a specific gravity of 4.2 gc-meter, that's grams per cubic centimeter, currently holds the biggest share. That's mainly because it's widely used in oil and gas drilling. That specific density is often ideal for controlling pressure downhole.
4.2, the main one for drilling.
Got it. But the segment that's projected to grow the fastest is actually specific gravity 4.1 gc-meter.
Ah, slightly less dense.
Yeah, just slightly. This grade seems to offer a really good balance between cost and performance. That makes it attractive, especially in emerging economies maybe, or for industrial uses where you don't absolutely need the maximum possible density.
That makes sense. Different needs, different price points drive demand for different grades. What about the by application outlook? We know drilling mud's the king.
Yep. Drilling mud continues to dominate the application segment, just crucial for oil and gas extraction. But as we've talked about quite a bit, that medical and pharmaceutical segment, it's expanding rapidly, driven by more diagnostic imaging procedures happening globally, and just the inherent usefulness of barium sulfate's radiopaque properties.
Right, the fast-growing challenger. And finally, how does the report break down the market by end user? Who's ultimately buying this stuff?
The key end-user industries listed are oil and gas, naturally, pharmaceutical, paints and coatings, rubber and plastics, adhesives and sealants, and interestingly, the textile industry is mentioned too, though probably a much smaller share.
Wow. We have really covered a lot of ground on the Barite market in this conversation. Let's try and sum up the key takeaways for everyone listening.
Certainly. So first off, the global Barite market is substantial. We're talking USD 2.14 billion projected for this year, 2025. And it's expected to grow strongly, hitting over USD 3.3 billion by 2033. That's at 5.6% CAGR.
Okay, big and growing.
Application-wise, the biggest use by far is still drilling mud for oil and gas. But the medical and pharmaceutical sector is really gaining importance. It's the fastest growing segment, actually.
Right, the medical angle is key.
Geographically, North America currently has the largest market share. But the Asia-Pacific region, particularly led by growth in places like India and China, is where the fastest expansion is expected. That 8.4% CAGR for APAC.
Got it, APAC for speed.
And finally, looking at the grade, while specific gravity 4.2 is the most used right now, especially for drilling.
Right.
Keep an eye on the specific gravity 4.1 grade. That's the one projected to see the highest growth rate, likely due to that cost-performance balance.
Excellent summary. So a seemingly simple mineral playing this surprisingly vital and evolving role across so many global industries. That's really the power of a deep dive like this. Now, just a final thought for you to chew on as we wrap up. Thinking about the increasing global focus on sustainability and the fact that synthetic alternatives are emerging, how might the barite market need to adapt, to innovate in the long run, to keep its crucial spot in all these different applications? And, could completely new uses pop up, leveraging its unique properties in ways we haven't even thought of yet. It really makes you consider that delicate balance between using natural resources effectively and embracing new technologies, especially in this seemingly humble yet surprisingly complex market.